give the kind of rundown like he was here. So, you know, it's a visual inspection. So obviously, you know, we didn't tear holes in the walls or anything of that nature, but everything that I can open, close, get in, get on, turn off, I was able to do so. The property being built in the early 60s, it's a little bit older. The big thing that I'm seeing is maybe some lack of maintenance, and you just need some upgrades.
Lack of maintenance, but that is a euphemism. I've heard one. Okay, go ahead.
It's actually a pretty solid property. I mean, structurally it's sound. Cosmetically, it just needs some work, but it sounds like we're already on the page of, you know, that's what he's looking at. So on the report, you're going to see two different icons. You're going to see a blue circle with an eye, which is just general information, photos of every room, below every sink. I used a drone to look at the roof and fly above the property and the site. And then you're going to see an orange triangle with an exclamation point, any defects we found. So this report, just because of the state that it's in, and with him not being here, I'm a little more picky. It's about 70 pages, so don't be alarmed. It's just lots of photos. Okay. Got some really neat site shots with the drone that I scared you with when you came up. You'll see some of this slider's locking mechanism does not work, hence why there is a pipe here and then a bar, and then there's a secondary lock. And it's just the retaining clip is broken over the years. This slider is difficult to open and close. Same thing, the track is kind of deteriorated. We do have some exposed electrical wiring on the outside of this beam for that lighting. There's really not a fix to it. I just would recommend having it in some kind of conduit so you don't have Romex wiring to the elements. It's been painted probably 10 times, so there's a coating on it anyways.
Well, the funny thing is those lights are original. Right. So is that also? It's
probably original how they fed the power.
Okay.
But I just have to say, hey, this is how I see it. It should have some type of conduit. We have some moisture damage, so we kind of talked about this, and I can kind of get a little more in depth. Getting into this patio, you can definitely see the patio sits higher than the structure. So any type of water, it's going to flow back into the home. And you can see this is the low part of the property, and it settles here. You can see the staining over the years. It's completely dry right now because we haven't had any rain. I tested it all, but there is some, definitely some defects throughout. So I would recommend, there's a couple options. You can grip that out, put some French drains in there, or properly seal everything up. But as far as structural stability, I don't think it has affected that. It's more or less cosmetic. And with here, it gets quite warm, so it's going to dry everything out. If they're worried about, mold, I hate to use that 4-letter word mold, but if you're worried about those, you can have it tested, but I promise that you could probably just cut that up a couple feet, clean it all up, replace it, and you'll be good to go.
Does it pose any other obstacles if he is going to be ripping up the floors and the walls?
If anything, that's the time to address all of that at that point. Worst case would be, let's say, the baseboards are going to be ripped out. I would say it would be not virtually impossible, but they would have to be almost sitting in water for the 2x4s, or these are real 2x4s or 2x6s, depending upon what they built the property with, to fail. Okay. So worst case, maybe they would have to, shore up a couple of them, but I don't see any cracks. Fortunately, we don't have any second, there's not a second story here, so the amount of weight is limited, to these areas. We're missing, like I said, I was quite picky. We're missing some doorknobs, and with the doorknob being exposed or missing, that door has become exposed to the elements. So it's kind of, it's getting to a point now that it's almost like, hey, maybe just replace the door, because the wood, you can see it's warped a bit, and there's some possible dry rot. Can't use that word anymore. That's a termite word. So you have to use moisture damage.
Moisture damage.
Yeah, possible moisture damage. So, and then there's this nice little storage on the outside. I believe that somebody didn't have the keys, so they just broke the hinges. So you'll see that the locks are still there, but they're open. But it's not too tough to take those off now and put proper locks in there. It is exposed, so some of those exterior doors are a little deteriorated, but it's the same kind of thing. Even, some sanding, or just put some new doors on them if you're gonna kind of do a facelift here anyways, and it would really pop. And then, obviously they try to keep moisture out of that area. Above the front door, you have that, I think it's a magnolia. I'm not quite sure what kind of plant or tree that is, but it's there. It's in the front door. So it's actually growing into the light. They use.
He wants to keep it because it reminds him of Brazil.
Well, I can see that. Just you got to be careful of just it getting too big. Yeah. So just watch that.
You're hesitant. It should be there at all. I'm just gonna say it. Okay.
I'm just playing. I gotta play.
I think he's gonna get rid of it.
Yeah. You know, the big one is it's hanging off of that light, and that light is not rated for a tree.
What?
You can see that the upper
That wasn't a
hook-
tree-rated lighting fixture? What kind of thing are you talking
And that
about?
hook is starting to, you can see it's expanding and pulling down a little bit. So I just would hate for that to fall one day. Multiple outlets in the property test with what is called an open ground. So it's quite common with the age of this property that, you know, when they replace receptacles, you know, there's some of the wiring comes loose and then it tests with that type of wiring. We need to catch a ground on all of the receptacles for safety purposes.
Do you think it's at all possible that when this was built, it didn't have ground wires and we're still dealing with that wiring?
Possibly, but there is ground in other locations. That's the part where I go,
Okay.
So I'm thinking it probably was grounded. It's just maybe they've become loose over the years. Main electrical panel is located out in the closet right by the front door. It is a Zinsco. I know you guys were talking about it. And it's just the company, you know, they've caught fire in the past. Let's say 100 of them out of 1 million, but they have to say, hey, look. So every time we see that company, I have to say, hey, look, there could be an issue. There is some exposed wiring there. The door's not connected properly. There's a few little things. I'd have an electrician, which you probably do anyways, dealing with the property, and they'll tidy up that panel. You know, they'll probably put a, you know, secured cover, because right now you can go out there, there's no screws. You can just pull the cover off. Not that anybody's getting into that area and doing that, but you could do that on accident. Let's see. We talked about the breakers. Water pressure's good. You know, we're right at about 70 pounds. We want to be between 60 and 80, so we're not blowing pipes, and at the same time, we do have enough water to take showers and things of that nature. The water heater, it's electric. Everything in the property is electric. So you'll see that the only thing that I'm missing really on the water heater is it's not strapped. It does only sit about 3 feet off the floor, but technically it does need to have seismic straps.
Does it have two, even though it's super short?
It has
like that?
0 straps.
No, but when you do it, technically it's supposed to have two.
Yes,
Okay.
because top third, bottom third of the tank. I mean, you could get away with one. You know, it's not going to topple over. I mean, it would be hard to push it over now just because how it sits. But
Does that have to be replaced soon, or is that?
it doesn't appear to be. I mean, it's functioning. They have hot water at all the fixtures. I don't see any rust or corrosion. It's just anytime they're outside, it's truly not outside because it's in some type of a compartment. But you know, you're dealing with a little more elements than you would if it was, let's just say, in the garage. The HVAC system, so it's located on the roof. It's called a package unit, so it has the heat as well as the cooling. And here, this is a heat pump because there's no gas. So the furnace runs off of the Freon just like the air conditioning does. It just runs in reverse. So it's older. I tried to pull the date stamp off. It doesn't have, even on the serial number, the lookup company that I use doesn't even have it. So I'm saying it's at least 30 plus years old. I mean, it could be even older than that, maybe 40.
So you're saying maybe it needs to be replaced?
Possibly in the near future. It does work. I mean, we're getting 52-degree air out, so it's cold. But I don't know. I mean, energy efficiency and things like that. Yeah, you're not. I'll tell you, you're not saving any energy. That's for sure. But you know, there's a little bit of rust and corrosion. You'll see some photos I took, and I think that's just from it sitting and then the rain. It's just running through the unit. As far as the kitchen, you know, they've done some upgrades over the years. You know, there's a panel on the wall because this, I believe, used to have a cooktop, and then that was how it was controlled. And they left it just for the aesthetics, I believe. For the whole, you know, I like that nostalgic feel. The exhaust fan in the hood, I cannot get to turn on. So I don't know if there's a switch that I'm missing, but I tried everything in there and it's not functional. But it's a cool setup. It's there. It's just probably the guts need to be replaced.
Right.
There's not a GFI in the kitchen, which is a ground fault circuit interrupter. It's the outlet, you know, for safety purposes. I'd recommend doing that. And you can see below the sink at one point there was a leak. I ran it for probably 10 minutes while I was running the dishwasher, and that's run an entire cycle, and it's completely dry. So I tested that just to be cautious. You'll see these little separators. What was the term?
The screens, privacy screens.
The privacy screens. They've seen better days in multiple locations. They're kind of split here and then back over here in this den area. So you'll see that there's a little separation. The dishwasher needs to be properly secured to the underside of the cabinetry. Right now it's missing the screw, so it kind of wobbles. As far as the bathrooms, my whole philosophy behind moisture, if it's going to leak today, I want it to happen today. So I want it to have, you know, I'm stressing the system, flushing toilets 3 and 4 times while I'm running the tub in the shower. So couldn't get anything to fail, which is a good thing. I did note in the master bathroom, that toilet, it's
Shock?
I use a little bit of caulking on there. I mean, it is like, and it rocks a little bit.
A little?
Yeah, so I would pull that, you know, you have to hold the handle down to make it fully flush. One other thing in the master, that nice mirror on the wall, it's connected to the wall with zip ties, plastic zip ties. So over time, those would become brittle, and I would hate for that mirror to topple over on someone. The other bathroom, same thing, that toilet you have to, I adjusted one of the float mechanisms, so it probably works, but just to let you know, you probably want to change those out. You're going to have photos of every room of the property to show you the state that it's in today, just in case something would change. Some of the closet doors, they're original, and they don't slide very well. The tracks have, you know, over the years have kind of deteriorated a little bit. It's actually more or less the mechanisms on the door. The rollers don't slide very well. And then right above the front door, there used to be another hanging light fixture. When you turn the switches on right next to the door and you energize the light above the door, that wire it's live, it becomes, or that's exposed becomes live. So if you would touch that while that light's on, you would become electrocuted, possibly, or shocked, which is not good. Everything else for me on this property would be considered cosmetic. Lots of dings and dents, but I mean, it just needs, like we were talking about, just your own personal touch, and it sounds like he's got a plan.
Yeah,
so I mean,
what would be the 3 biggest risks, do you think?
I mean, the big one here, I'd look obviously to ensure that this is fixed. You don't want this to happen once you put all this money into the home, you know, to have these problems. So that would be one
What's the
issue.
leaking and the moisture?
Yeah, just to ensure that that's sealed on the exterior. I'd probably have an AC guy just look at the unit just due to the age. It is functional,
Yeah,
but it's a little bit older.
Well, we do have a home warranty for that.
Okay,
so
good. And it's functional here, so it's going to show that it's operational.
Yeah.
So if it fails in the next year, hey, you get that taken care of.
Get those guys to come out and keep it functioning. That's why we get that. So that's helpful. That
Yeah.
That is helpful.
Yeah. And then the electrical, maybe have an electrician come out and look to ensure that all the outlets are, you know, properly secured, and maybe upgrade, put some GFIs, and ensure that panel is secured.
Yeah.
Everything else I would just consider your typical 1961. As long as we're on the page that we understand,
Yeah.
you know, 1961, we're good. It's not 2001, but that's why we're buying this, because it has that feel. But yeah, it's all in all pretty solid. And then as far as the roof, that's one thing I didn't touch. No issues with the roof on my end. Took lots of photos. It has the slurry coat, that the cool coat on top. I don't see any areas of deterioration or discolorization. You know, it all looks solid throughout on the entire property, not just this roof. So
that's good.
Yep.
That's a really good thing.
That's great. And then, you know, just general maintenance every few years, you know, and I'm sure they probably do something like that, or somebody comes by and they just offer that service, because that's what it looks like. You know, sometimes you'll see them that one unit's really, really bad and then the others are fine. This whole section, or this, you know, this building looks clean. So.
Okay.
All right. And my information's all over the report, so if you have any questions, please give me a call.
Okay. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.